Some of the formatting features I'm going to be showing you here can be done more than one way, and I'll show you as many ways as I can. Then it's up to you to find out what works best for you. First of all, let me introduce you to my report. It's the customer info report. Down below I have the customer name field, customer ID, and then all the way over to the right I include the salesperson. Back to the left, first thing I'd like to do is to change the title of my report from customer details to customers. I'm going to go ahead and right click and go to the layout view. I like the layout view, it's cleaner, and plus I'm not going to do really anything intense as far as the design is concerned, so I'm not going to go to the design view, at least not yet. And to change the title here, I can either triple click and then delete the text details here, or come up here on the Format tab to the Controls group and click on the title button. Now when I click on the title button, the first time I click on it, it adds the title box down below, and the default title name would be the name of the tab here or of the report, in which case I can change it. However, once it's been added, if I click on it again, it'll select it. So I can come down here, delete it, add the S, hit enter. That looks good. Next, I want to be able to change the width of my columns here. Now I'm selecting the data. When I click on one of them, it selects the whole column of data versus the label here. I don't want to mess with the label, but the data column here. If I click on the actual border, it selects all the records, but I'm just going to stay within the column and not click on the actual border here, okay? Another way to select all the records, by the way, is coming over here in the margin, selects all the records. We'll go over that a little bit more in detail in just a minute. So after I select one of the fields down below, I can hover over to the right and click and drag the borders to either stretch the fields in or stretch them out. Of course, if I stretch them in and I cut them off, as you recall in the previous training video, we can use the can grow feature, which means that instead of cutting it off, if there's extra text, it'll wrap it around and grow vertically. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and bring it in here, and you can see how it's cutting it off. To change that, to apply the can grow feature to it, I can just right click and bring up the property sheet down below. Once it's up, I'm dealing just with the formatting here, so I'm going to stay on the Format tab and then scroll all the way down to the bottom where it says can grow, double click that, change it to yes, and there we go. Instead of being cut off, it grows vertically. It wraps it around. Happy, town, then play world underneath. In addition to clicking and dragging on the right borders of these fields here to stretch it or shrink it, you can also, let me scroll all the way to the top here, type it in numerically. So if you really want to be particular and say it's got to be 2.5 inches, well, come in here and change it from 1.2 to 2.5, hit enter, and we're exact. Close out of the property sheet. Next, I want to count up how many records are within the report here. Well, 1, 2, no, that's going to take too long. Instead, what I can do is go ahead and click on any one of these fields here to select the column of fields, and then come up here on the Format tab to the Grouping and Totals group and click on the Totals drop-down arrow, and let's do Count Records. And then when it's finished calculating, it adds it up down below, or it gives me the total down below, 14. Now if I hand this report to somebody, they're not going to know what 14 is. Well, maybe they can figure it out, but what I can do is add a label over here that says Record Count. And to do that, I'll right click and go to the Design view, come up here on the Design tab to the Controls group and click on the Label button, come down here and click to add my label. Adds a little tiny box here, but once I start typing, it pushes it out, and then hit enter to accept it. And then I can just hover over one of the borders until I get a 4-way arrow, because if I hover over the border and get a 2-way arrow, I'm just stretching it. But when I get a 4-way arrow, it's a bit tricky here, then it means I can move the label as a whole. So I click and drag it without stretching it and put it over there. You can also use your arrow keys up or down here, left or right. Back to right click the layout view, and the record count, it's aligned to the right. If I want to align it to the middle or the left, I can do it one of two ways. First of all, I need to make sure that I have it selected here, the field 14, the one I want to align. Come up here on the Format tab to the Font group and click Aligned Left. That works. Or I can right click here and bring up the property sheet again. And on the Format tab, do you see where it says Text Align and it's left? I can change that to center. So you can do it from the property sheet as well. But let me go back to left here. So there we go. And then if I want to do it for the customer ID fields here, just click on it to select it as a whole, and then text align, we can do center. In addition to that, if I want to change the color to pull emphasis to this column, I can do that as well. Coming up to the font group, clicking on the fill color drop down arrow, and I don't know, choose something light. It doesn't look good, but you can do it. So go ahead and click undo for whatever reasons. You may find one here. I'm going to close out of this property sheet. Now this report was based upon an auto format. In other words, when you click on the drop down arrow, if you watched in the previous training video, you can apply some default colors and font sizes and so forth. Once you apply it, you can make some changes. And one of the changes I'd like to make is the alternating color for my records. Right now, I have the alternating color of white, green, white, green. What if I want white blue or white red or something like that? Well, first of all, to make the change, I need to select all the records. For example, when I come up here on the Format tab to the font group, this button right here, when I hover over it, the alternate fill, I can't do anything until I select all the records. And I can do that, well, one of two ways. I can click in the margin here to the left-hand side. It selects all the records, or again, let me click off here just to select the column. If within one of the columns I click on a border here, it will select all the records as well. Once I have them selected, back in the font group, I can click on the alternating fill color arrow and choose a color like something, maybe a light blue. So instead of white green, it's now alternating between white blue, white blue. Next, how about some conditional formatting? I'm going to look at the customer ID column here, their fields, and let's say that the customers, I want to be able to apply some formatting on those customers between a given range, let's say 31,200 and 32,600, because those are the customers that we added to our database at the time when we were offering huge discounts. And I want to be able to later look them up and see if these customers were just a one-hit wonder because of the discounts or they're actually a repeat customer. So I'm going to go ahead, first of all, click on one of these fields so it selects all the fields within the column here, and then come up here to the Format tab, Font Group, click on the Conditional button. And the condition's pretty much been set up for me because I want it between numbers. I don't want it not between or equal to, so between. And what are the numbers here? Again, let's do something like 31,200 to, let's do 31,700. Right now there's no formatting applied, so I couldn't tell once I apply the condition unless I actually say, well, if it meets the criteria here, make it bold, and you can see the preview, it's bold. Make it italics, underline. You could apply colors, but as far as the report goes, you're not going to see those colors when they print off. The only time you're going to see them is in the report view when you actually click within the cell. So I recommend sticking to the basics here, either bold, italics, or underline, but we'll go ahead and try a color. Let's do light green here. Fills it in. Click OK. See, it's not filling the light green in here in my layout view, but it does give me the bold, italics, and underline, so I know these are the clients that were brought on at a time we were offering deep discounts. And then when I right-click that and I go to my report view, you see how I have it selected here? The color pops up green, green, green. Down below it doesn't. But when I go to print this off, right-click to go to print preview. Now, in all my training videos, I tell somebody, if you're not sure how it's going to look when you print it off, always go to the print preview. Well, this is what you see is what you get. There's no green here, but it does give me the bold, the italics, and underlines. So be sure you stick with the basics there if you're going to apply any conditional formatting to your reports, okay? Go ahead and right-click. Let's go back to the layout view. The next thing I want to do is, well, show you the hide duplicate option. I'm going to scroll over here to the right. And I have my salespeople. I have employee 1-10 listed here a couple of times. And the hide duplicates, anytime there's a duplicate, well, in this case a field, one right after another, it's going to hide all the rest that are underneath it that are duplicates. So for this example, if I applied hide duplicates, we have employee 10, it would hide the second one. And then employee 18, it'd give me the first one but hide the second one. Now this one, because it's on a different row here, it's going to give me employee 10. First of all, let me show you how it's done, and then I'll show you the second option, how to just actually hide all the duplicates and just show one employee 10 for all the records here, one employee 18 for all the records that they're tied to here. To do that, I want to bring up the property sheet. I can just right-click and go down to Properties here. On the Format tab, I want to scroll down to the bottom here, and for the column that I have selected, if you recall, let me scroll over, Salesperson, where it says Hide Duplicates, I'll double-click that and change it to Yes. You can automatically see that it hid the duplicates that are right stacked on top of one another. So if there's two of them here, it hides one of them, just shows the other. Although it doesn't hide all the duplicates, and you can see where I'm getting at here, because if I go ahead and let me change this back to No, and I want to be able to hide all duplicates within this column, then they all need to be sorted or grouped together. So what I can do is just right-click on here and go Sort A to Z, and then it groups them by sorting the employee 110 all together here, and then the 12, well, he only sold one here. So when I come back over here and I double-click and say Yes to hide duplicates, then it just shows the one within the grouping here, and it hide the rest for employee 10, employee 18, and employee 30. So truly, in order to hide duplicates within a field here, you want to make sure that they're sorted so they're all grouped together. That may mess up your report, especially if you had them originally sorted all by the customer names, but in any case, I'll leave that decision up to you, whatever works best for your reporting purposes here. And then finally, keep in mind, I'm going to close out of the property sheet, that you can group fields together, so instead of selecting them consistently over time, if you're making many changes, just select them once, group them together, then all you have to do is click on one of the fields within that group and it selects the whole group. So right click, go to Design View, So if I'm looking like, let's say randomly this address and the city, shift click, select them both. And then to group them together so I don't have to select them both again, come up here, click on the Arrange tab to the Control Layout and click on the Group button. Once I group them together, I can just click off in a blank area. Then later on, if I need to select them both again, all I have to do is click on one of them and it selects both of them. Then I can do whatever I need to do. Like if I wanted to design it and maybe fill it in with some color, maybe these are the fields that are important that I want people to focus on. Maybe make them bold here, things like that. Report view. Well, everything's in bold, but nonetheless, when you create your reports, they'll look a little bit cleaner than what I have here. But at least with some of the options and advanced features that I showed you, hopefully some of them you'll get some great use out of. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel, get notified of the latest videos, and for only $2 a month, you can have access to all my Microsoft Office training videos.